Oh, wow, fam. Have you guys heard about this 35-year-old Bank of America associate who suddenly died, and now his death has sparked conversations about the intense working conditions on Wall Street? This article triggered me on a number of levels, but before I get into it, I'd like to say rest in peace to Leo Lucanus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I hope I am. And I also would like to send condolences to his family, including his wife and 2 young children and a twin brother who he has left behind. Now, as you can see here, this article tells us that the intense working conditions on Wall Street include 100-hour plus work weeks and high-pressure environments, and that junior investors are expected to deal with these strenuous conditions as a rite of passage. And the reason this is triggering to me is that upon graduating from the Ivy League law school that I attended, I went to work at multinational law firms in a large metropolitan area, and we were subjected to these kinds of conditions. It was nothing at all for us to be expected as we were called junior associates as well, to come in and work, be there by 9 or before, to end up staying until at least midnight, having to use vouchers to get meals because we're there all day, working, I in particular, day after day, weekend after weekend. I remember counting one time just working 28 hours straight. I recall having to get my mother to go to my home, pick up my dry cleaning and take it, and then go back and get the dry cleaning a few days later because I was always at work. I was at work at the time the dry cleaners opened, and I was still at work when they closed. And it was just really outrageous. Now, of course, the compensation is significant, but the question becomes, is your life for sale? How much of your life, your time, your energy, your life force are you willing to give up for a huge sum of money? But let's look at what the article says. This article is telling us that Mr. Lucanus's death has called attention to the job demands required of investment bankers, and I would say young lawyers, I'm sure doctors in residency. There are probably a number of professions that are subjected to this type of situation. And they're talking about how those demands often cause steep declines in both mental and physical health. But before I leave this page, I've got to show you guys something that is mind-boggling to me. Look at how right in the midst of this article about this man's death, there is a video right above my head that says Morgan Stanley and Bank of America beat estimates, takeaways from big bank earnings. And what they're alluding to or talking about in that video is the fact that both Morgan Stanley and Bank of America, as you can see from this article, exceeded analysts' expectations in their first quarter results, which were boosted by surging investment banking fees. And they tell us that the shares of both financial institutions rose. So my question is, how on earth could any editor, journalist, anybody that works in mainstream media be so insensitive as to put a video like that boasting about the profits that banks have made on the backs of investment bankers in the midst of a story about a younger investment banker who has suddenly passed away? I'm telling you that capitalism is nothing nice. And each and every one of us had better look out for ourselves because these companies care about nothing but profit. But of course, we all knew that. Still, the insensitivity of this just blows my mind. Now, I find this part of the story very interesting as well. They're telling us that Lucanus began working at the Bank of America last March through a veteran associate program, and then he became a full-time investment banker at the firm in July. But before that, he spent over a decade in the U.S. Army Special Forces and was a member of the Green Berets, the famed Green Berets, a unit specially trained in counterterrorism and unconventional warfare. Now, I currently represent veterans before the Board of Veterans Appeals and the VA in my law practice. But I imagine we all have heard of the Green Berets and how strenuous that training is and what kind of difficult job that is. So this man was able to survive the Green Berets for more than a decade, but Bank of America may, there's no allegation or proof that he died as a result of this job, but that may have taken him out. That's just, everything about this story is just a bit mind-boggling to me. And we're just seeing here more of the tough work environment in investment banking, the long hours, demanding workloads, high-pressure performance, 100-plus hour weeks, and as I noted in my own profession, the very high compensation. But of course, that can take a toll on well-being as well as job satisfaction over time. We were also told in the story that some of the other investment bankers, and it appears to be cut off here, but you can see at the top, they wanted to go on strike against Bank of America, and they had some demands. But look, even the demands are a maximum hour cap of 100 hours for any given week and a monthly average hour cap of 80 hours per work week and a minimum of 1 weekend off a month. Still leaves a very strenuous job. Another article did show his wife and 2 young children, again, who I send my condolences. But I just had to come on briefly. I'm not going to make this long. I just had to come on briefly and say this is very triggering. It's triggering because there are a lot of young professionals who are being subjected to these conditions in order to earn the high compensation. But do know that when you're working in a job like that, the house you bought is sitting empty while you're at work all the time. The car you purchased is sitting unused because you're working all the time. And the fact that this man could be in the Army in one of the intense units for over a decade and survive that, but then not make it through after working at Bank of America says a lot. Another article said that he had been involved in some $2 billion a $2 billion deal, probably an acquisition deal. And so that may have required an even more intense environment and longer working hours than usual. But it is just crazy the things that we are expected to do in order to earn a living. And I just think it's time to rethink how we participate in capitalism as employees as opposed to owners. Let me know what you think.